Alright, I'm gonna try to record and see what this is like. Is there meaning to life?
Nobody asked me if I wanted to exist. Yeah, one day, boom, there you are. And you think to yourself, why am I here?
It's not like that,
well,
though.
What do you think? Is there a reason we're here? Do our
I
lives
love how
have any
they
real
got a
significance?
Indian girl to tell the
On
answers.
what?
On whether or not God exists.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying that my life has no significance because I don't believe in God?
No, not at all.
No, not
I'm
at
saying
all.
that if God doesn't exist, it doesn't matter what you believe. Our lives would have no objective meaning, value, or purpose.
That just doesn't make any sense. It's like if you're starting with the conclusion that God exists and therefore there is meaning for life because God exists, then you can easily get to that conclusion. But in reality, that's not how it works. In reality, we come up with meaning in many different ways, and none of them have to be about God. You can, as far as life as for an individual is concerned, and what something means, it can be subjective or objective. Like, running 3 hours through the trails to me is very meaningful, but it might not be very meaningful to you. Playing tennis every day, all the time, your whole life is very meaningful to you, but it's not meaningful to me. Now, on the other hand, something that is objectively, meaningful or good or bad might be something like killing somebody. In reality, there's nothing that says good or bad about killing somebody, but as humans, for the well-being of humans, we don't consider killing someone to be along the lines of being good for people. And there's a lot to go with that, so let's just see what they keep going.
Many atheists themselves recognize this. If atheism is true, life is absurd.
That is just ridiculous.
And why do they think that?
To begin with, if God does not exist, then the physical universe is all there is.
Okay, perfect.
Which means you and I are just accidental byproducts of nature.
The way that they put this, that you and I are just accidental products of nature, that is basically saying that an accident would be a problem, or like an accident is bad, or an accident has no meaning. Like, an accident can have no meaning, and it can also have a great deal of meaning. I mean, we even make up special words for things that happen on accident that are really, really good, and something that, like, let's say all there is the universe, which for all intents and purposes, that is all there is. That is all we know for sure, is what we know and can see in this reality that we all experience. So, as far as it goes, in this reality that we all experience, the chance that we are here, which is a very, 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 very low probability, as far as 1 in 400 trillion chance that any one person is there, but it is there, and we are here, and because we are here, now what do we do? Now what do we do? And we get up into all kinds of things. We play, we run, we talk, we make up new words, we make up stories, we make up different imagination, coming from our imaginations about different gods and the way gods can be, and this is my God, this is their God, this is this God, and a God is just a metaphor, a representation of like an ultimate power of creativity and the unknown and fear. I mean, it's like it's so naive and silly to say that if God doesn't exist, nothing matters. I mean, it's like easily you can have God not existing and things still matter. Like, to me, as an atheist, which just means that I have not been presented evidence good enough or proof of a God. That's it. Like, I have not been convinced that there is a God. No one has convinced me. And what has even more convinced me is that there is tons of proof that we humans make these things up. That's what is extraordinarily convincing, is that we make these things up. Like the fact that they're having to make up all these weird ways of saying things, like if the universe was just by chance, we wouldn't mean anything. That is just an arbitrary thing to say. That's your opinion. You know, you can say, like, if there's no God, nothing means anything. Well, I don't know why you would live like that or think that, because that's clearly not true as a human. As a human, there are many things that mean something with or without God. It's such a silly thing.
Accidental byproducts of nature.
Right. So?
That means we were not intentionally designed. So there's no purpose for us being here.
Whoa.
It gets worse.
Yeah,
If God
is...
doesn't...
Something doesn't have to be intentionally designed to have any purpose. I mean, what random moments have happened that have led to something wonderful? I mean, think about that. Like, it's hard to imagine the complexity of things coming together and then them creating something out of virtually what was not there as it is now. It came together through all these little pieces and it created something out of that other something. I mean, that happens all the time. You go, oh, wow, I didn't think about that. Oh, wow, think about this. Oh, wow, what about this? Oh, wow, like, things come out of connection all the time. Like, connections that you wouldn't be able to put together. Like, that's how we as humans have basically come up with with everything. You know, like, we've come up with, like, how to make the current cell phones not out of magic, but out of a slow evolutionary process of seeing how the world works and then taking that and going, okay, let's try this, let's try this, that doesn't work, let's try this, that doesn't work, let's try this. It's like, things don't have meaning just because they are designed in a specific way, and it goes back to the clockmakers, the watch on the sand, is that, Christians say, if you walk on the sand and you see a clock in the sand, do you think that it just magically appeared, or do you think that there was a clockmaker that designed it? And it's like, we know that there are clockmakers. We know that there are clockmakers that make clocks, but the clockmaker didn't come up in that moment of making the clock, the idea of a clock. That happened a long time ago when there was somebody that was noticing a movement in the sky and the sun was moving. They got this idea to try to measure that, and they stick a stick in the ground and then measure the shadow, and then the shadow turned into the next measurement device, and then the next measurement device, and then the next measurement device, for thousands and thousands of years, all the way to there's a clock that was created by a person on the beach. That's how things happen. And humans were not magically created out of thin air by a god. They were over time. I mean, think about this. Like, if there is matter and there's something, and then it can come together and there's a cell, and then the cell divides, and then the cell divides more and more and more and more. Okay, kind of like the idea of the sun moving and then measuring the sun's movement with a shadow. The cells dividing, it's, and there's all these kind of infinite possibilities that thing can happen, and out of all that, boom, boom, you get everything that we know that exists. That's where everything comes from. It's not specifically designed. I mean, that is just crazy, man. If you think humans are specifically designed, then why would, like, some people have migraine headaches and other people don't? Like, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense. But in the worldview that is in reality and how we evolve over time out of an infinite almost number of ways, it makes a lot of sense that there would be all these variables in life. And what we see is that there are all these variables in life. It's not this like cookie cutter designed thing, it's like this totally arbitrary kind of messed up thing that just happens to be the way that it is, and some people think that it's complete shit and some people think that it's great. I mean, it's like there's the subjectivity. What is good? What is bad? Is it bad that this is happening? Is it good that this is happening? How is it to us? And our words and our subjectivity and the way we think and the way we, this video is so silly. I've already watched it a few times. It's so silly. I mean, there's a lot. I don't do a very good job. This is the first time I ever did this, but it's like you're starting with your conclusion, and then everything that you're saying is for saying that conclusion is the right conclusion, and it's just not the right way to do it. It's like if you start in a place, like let's say you were born in a place that they don't worship the Christian God. Now, how do you get to the Christian God from a culture that doesn't worship the Christian God or doesn't know about the Christian God? So you can't start with that God because that God doesn't exist for all intents and purposes. So from that other culture, how do you get to the Christian God? And chances are you wouldn't. I mean, that's kind of that you wouldn't get there. I mean, unless somebody told you about something and that kind of led you to think and believe that was the thing to believe and think about that was true. But in the way that they're doing it on this video is like, no, the Christian God is real, and now let me tell you these reasons that it has to be true that the Christian God is real. But when you look closely at all these reasons that they're saying, for me, they're extraordinarily weak. It's so obviously wrong, and what we call begging the question. It's like you're like trying to just let it be that your conclusion is correct, when it's just so obviously not the case that these examples that they're giving are corresponding to a God. What they're corresponding to is the reality that we live in, which doesn't need a God. Anyway, this is already way longer winded than I wanted to be.
Whoa.
It gets worse. If God does not exist, there is no absolute standard of moral value.
That's nonsense.
You've heard of Richard Dawkins, the atheist. He points out that in a materialistic universe, there is at bottom no design, no purpose, no evil, no good, nothing but pointless indifference.
See, that is just
So
silly.
you're saying atheists can't be good people?
No, I'm not saying that. Many atheists live good lives. What I'm saying is, atheism fails to provide an objective basis for saying any particular action is good or...
See, this is exactly what, this is a very specific example of how this whole video is just wrong. Atheism fails to provide an objective basis for morality. Atheism, first of all, doesn't claim to provide a basis for morality. Atheism is just that I haven't been convinced that there is a God. That's it. That is all atheism is. It's an atheist hasn't been convinced that there is a God. And more than likely, the atheist has been convinced otherwise. and that's including me. I haven't been convinced that there's a God, but I've been very, very, very much convinced that the idea of God is human-made. Okay? So when she says the atheism fails to provide an objective basis for morality, that's just a false statement in general. But if you let that go and you go into what she's saying, which is to provide an objective basis of morality, I can show very easily that you don't need a God for that. Like I've asked a friend, okay, would it be good, bad, or indifferent to kill somebody? If there were no God. If there were no God, would it be good, bad, or indifferent to kill somebody? From what she's saying, that it would be indifferent. And I say, why would you think that it would be indifferent to kill somebody if there were no God? It's like, in this specific scenario, it's like the person, when I asked them this, just, their brain kind of breaks. It's like, wait a minute, something's not adding up here. Yeah, it's not adding up because without a God, killing somebody is bad because we say that it is bad. And why do we say that it is bad? We say that it is bad not because we are the ultimate lawgivers of the universe, but because if one person kills another person, the person that is being killed is now dead. So against their will to be alive, which we all have that will to be alive, like it's only natural to remain alive until you're dead. And so the person that is being killed is now dead even though they wanted to keep being alive. So that is why we say that it is bad. And that is an objective basis for morality, is how things happen in reality. Like what happens in reality. Is it bad that, there's just so many examples you could give about this. It's like, is it good or bad to eat ice cream late at night? Some people would say yes, some people would say no. It's like, the killing thing is just so black and white. It's like, is it good or bad to kill somebody is not based on whether or not the Christian God says it's bad or good. And that's another way to put it. Like, is killing someone good or bad because God says it so? Or is it good or bad because it's inherently good or bad? That's, if you can't understand that, I really don't know what to say. And this is kind of the crux of it all, because it's so obvious that if you kill somebody, they're now dead as opposed to being alive, and that would be what we call bad. Bad is just a word. Good is just a word. And when we say bad, it is describing this experience of someone being alive and then being dead based on somebody else making that happen. And so when that happens in a certain scenario, we say that that is bad. Now, we say that that is good when the other person is trying to kill the other person, and then one person kills the one from self-defense. We say that killing is good only in the sense that the other person was trying to kill them. Now, in the ultimate of reality, it's still bad for the person that's being killed because they're dead. But you know what? They caused the problem to where they are dead. So we consider that that's, in general, that's good. But in reality, it would be better to just avoid that altogether for both parties. Like, let's not get to the part where we killing each other, because that can be bad for everybody. And when we say bad, that means like for the well-being of the people that are involved. This is not complicated. It's not complicated at all.
For seeing any particular action as good or evil.
Oh, come on. After millions of years of sociobiological evolution, humans have developed a sense of morality. We all know it's good to feed a hungry
Morality
child
is just
and
a word.
bad to torture someone for fun.
Of course we do, but that's precisely what atheism cannot explain. If there's no God, then what we consider right or wrong is nothing more than an accident of evolution or a human social convention.
So what?
And?
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Really, evolution implies survival of the fittest, not morality.
No.
And social convention means that racism.
See, this is Christianity and apologists. This is not Christianity, but apologists, which is obviously what William Craig Lane is, and any apologist. They don't say what is true in reality. They just don't. They can't, because they're trying to prove something that doesn't actually correspond to reality. So you can't prove something that doesn't correspond to reality with things that are based in reality. And for example, when she says that, survival of the fittest, that doesn't mean survival of the fittest like kill or be killed. No. Survival of the fittest means that whatever is most fit for the environment that it's in will continue to survive. And humans have survived for so long because we are social. We communicate with one another. And over time, we have created rules based on what happens when you do certain things. I mean, it's like, if you have a group of 10, 15 people that are living in a tribe, 100,000 years ago, and one person is, lazy and not doing anything that helps the group might not like that. And so they might either, try to teach the lazy person a lesson, or, make some rules that they have to work for a certain amount of time. It's like, that's fit. Like, how is that tribe? Now, let's say that tribe, because they make these rules about the people that are in their tribe, they are more, they do better in their environment than, let's say, another tribe. Okay, so the other tribe that didn't do as well, they die out because they couldn't handle it, and so the one tribe that did figure it out a little bit better, they survive. That is survival of the fittest. It's not like kill or be, it's not like kill and take whatever you can and I'm the macho man and I can do whatever I want and I'm the fittest of them all. It's not that at all. It's like, how can you best interact with your environment that gives you an advantage to continue to survive? I mean, here's an easy example. For the longest time, childbirth rates were really, really bad. And so people were they would have 7, 8 kids, 10 kids, and most of them would die. And now, because of modern medicine, we have figured that out. And so now we don't have to have as many kids to have more people on this planet. We have become more fit for our environment to continue our species. So again, this video is so bad.
Social convention
I wish I
means
was
that racism,
more succinct.
intolerance, and cruelty are not really wrong. They just happen to be unpopular.
Okay, so atheists need to come up with some objective standard for
It's so
rights and
funny,
wrongs.
and you hear about Nazis and Hitler, is that wrong? Was that wrong? He thought it was right. It's like, yeah, he thought it was right. And guess what? The rest of the world didn't. And so we went to war with what we in general as humans thought was the better way to be for most of humanity. And we put an end to his nonsense. What he was thinking, the rest of the world didn't agree that it corresponded to the reality that we all live. Everybody else in the world was going, what he's doing, even though he thinks it's right, we're going to go ahead and say, no, this is not good for humanity. We are going to stop this person because they're not really, they're not really helpful in the progress, in the fitness of humanity. You know, like he thought that he was, but he was wrong. You know, like humanity has been often wrong. You know, especially when power comes into play. You know, you can make decisions that lead people astray, and you think you're right but you're wrong. I mean, there's so many examples of that, and that's even more reason why humans have come up with ways to differentiate what's imaginary and what's real and what's helpful and what's not helpful. I mean, you can have crazy ideas and try to put them into practice in reality, and turns out that they are not the way to go. Yeah, what a wild thing.
How about this? If an action leads to human flourishing, then we can say it's objectively good. And if it doesn't,
Maybe.
it's objectively evil.
More or
But
less.
why think that human flourishing
Evil is not
good?
the right word.
Aren't you being species-centric? Why not refer instead to the flourishing of rats or cabbages?
Well,
This is
And
very
who gets to
stupid.
decide what contributes to human flourishing?
We do.
Hitler was convinced killing millions of Jews would promote human flourishing. And Margaret Sanger thought forcing poor people...
Yeah, so she's doing it right here. You know, Hitler thought that killing all the Jews would promote human flourishing. You know, he did. And the rest of the world disagreed. And I'm pretty sure that the Jew people disagreed. So, you know, it's like that lazy person in the tribe. You know, it's pretty quick to find out who is not pulling their weight. You know, and Hitler was not only not pulling his weight in like any sane person's eyes, and so we decided as the humanity, the group of the world, was to say, you know, we got to stop this crazy person, you know, like, and when she tries to compare like flourishing, like, why don't we worry about the flourishing of rats? Well, we're not rats, so we kind of are species centric. We do focus on our species the same way that other species focus on other species. I mean, we do that. It's all subjective. It's like, why do we focus on ourselves? I mean, I think that's pretty obvious why we focus on ourselves. We are ourselves. Why wouldn't we focus on ourselves? It would be weird to be human and to put, you know, other things above us. Like, I'm not saying that we should put ourselves above them, but I also don't think that we should put them above us. Like, everything should be fairly equal. Like, you know, don't go just killing things just because you like to. You know, like, that doesn't really make much sense. You know, like, if if there's a spider in the house and you feel like afraid that it might bite you, yeah, kill the spider. There's no problem with that. Yeah, it's all about human flourishing. Like, why? Who else would we be so worried about?
And Margaret Sanger thought forcing poor people to be sterilized would lead to human flourishing.
Well,
As Guy
I don't
Pearson
disagree with
points
that.
out, pure practical reason will not take you to morality.
Pure practical reason
So, if
does
this
take
is
you to
true,
morality.
There is no legitimate basis for saying that behaving one way.
She just said pure practical reason won't take you to morality. I just, it seems so obvious that that statement is wrong. Pure reason, like, you know, morality, this is what this video is just trying to skate over, is that morality is a word that we use to describe how something is experienced in the world that we live in. It's not a magic word. It's like, you know, if you walk up and hit somebody in the face, is that good or bad? You know, the answer would be, well, it depends. Like, did the person ask you to hit them in the face? Did the person do something to you that maybe warranted you to hit them in the face? Even if that was true, is it okay to hit somebody just because they hit you? It's like, it all corresponds to reality. If you just go hit somebody in the face just out of the blue, then they and people that they know might try to come and cause you problems. Like, there's problems inherent in certain things that we call moral or unmoral. Here's a good example. The other day I saw a post about Japan where they actually have a word for sleeping on the job. It's sleeping in meetings, it's sleeping while working, it's literally sleeping on the job. And I asked a friend of mine who's a Christian and said, is it moral to sleep on the job where you work? And of course he came back, and eventually, after some getting to it, he said, no, it's not moral. It's stealing from your employer. It's not moral to sleep on the job. And let's see if this is still recording. Yeah, it's not moral. It is not moral to sleep on the job. It's stealing from your employer. And I said, well, if you were born and live in Japan, would it be moral? Because they do it, and it is okay. So it's good and okay in Japan, and bad and stealing from your employer in Alabama. So which one is it, right? Well, the answer is that morality is very subjective, it's very fluid, it's like language, it changes, it evolves over time. And my Christian friend will say, well, killing someone hasn't changed, it's always been bad. God said it was bad, and it's always been bad. Killing someone, again, is only based in reality how we look at it as bad. We even kill people because we say that what they did is bad. Like, is that moral to kill somebody? Is it moral just because they did something? Now we are saying we are moral to kill them? No, that is not how it works. It's only based on what we think and say about it. If we say that it is okay to kill somebody, if they kill somebody, then that is the moral thing that we can do. It's not the most moral thing that we can do. The most moral thing that could happen would be there would be no murder take place. And if we were a God, then we could just allow that to not happen. Like, no murders take place. The most moral thing probably that there would be is to not be able to make someone, go against someone else's will. The most moral thing, if you couldn't make someone else have an issue, that would probably be the most moral scenario, but that's not the world we live in, So we have to make rules and decide what is, I don't even use this word moral. To me, it doesn't even, you don't need even the word moral, but in the definition of the word moral, you can, you can just base it in simple reality, like something that's good or something that's bad based on how we describe it versus how it is in reality. It just seems so obvious to me that that's how it is. Like, if you stub your toe, is it bad or is it good or is it indifferent? Should you get mad at whatever you stubbed your toe on because the thing is being immoral? No, it's just happening like that. Here's another one. If you and your wife decide, if a husband and wife decide together that they want to sleep with other people, is that immoral? Are they doing something that is immoral? Seems to me that they're both consenting adults and they're doing what they want to be doing. So, but in the Christian way, the Christian God would say, no, that is immoral. That is bad. And it's well, the two people that are doing it are saying that it's good, and they're agreeing on it's good, and for all intents and purposes it's good, and they, they're having no, the only thing that would make it bad would be having some sort of bad thing that happened in the scenario, whatever that might be. But guess what? There are things that happen good or bad in any scenario, in any experience that we have in life. You don't have to be having quote unquote adultery to have something good or bad happen. You can be doing virtually anything. You can go to the ice cream shop and get an ice cream and choose a new flavor, and you might not like it. Is that immoral? Of course not. You just got unlucky and you chose the wrong thing that you don't like. I mean, to me, again, this is just so obvious. And to me, it's as obvious as in the video, they're trying to make it look like to Christians. But when I look at this video, it is lacking so much that it's incredible. I could talk for hours on this.
Legitimate basis for saying that behaving one way is worse than behaving any other way. So it really doesn't matter how you live your life. Your
Yeah, it just
day-to-day
doesn't
choices
matter.
are meaningless.
Doesn't matter at all.
That's depressing.
That's
So
depressing.
if there's no God, what happens when you die?
My God.
Well, nothing.
Hold on,
You
I just
simply
want to go
cease
back real
exist.
quick.
Right. Then points out, pure
Let's see what
practical
she
reason
says.
will not take you to morality. So if atheism is true,
If atheism
there
is
is
true-
no legitimate basis for saying that behaving one way is worse than behaving any other way. So it really doesn't matter how you live your
It
life.
doesn't matter
Your
how
day-to-day
you live-
choices are meaningless.
Your choices are
That's
meaning.
the-
Listen to this. It doesn't matter how you live your life. Your choices are meaningless. Think about how much that plays into the beginning conclusion that there is this Christian God. It's like, if there is this God, you have meaning. If there isn't this God, you don't have meaning. Therefore, if you're an atheist, your choices and your life have no meaning. It's like, wait a minute, hold up. I'm a so-called atheist, someone who hasn't been convinced that there is an actual God, but has been convinced that there is many stories of a God. And my life has lots of meaning, lots of purpose. It's completely ridiculous. I find meaning and purpose in so much. For me, like, waking up in the morning has meaning and purpose. I love getting up in the morning, waking up. It's wonderful. I love going to bed at night. It's like such a wonderful experience. It has so much meaning. You can talk about it for hours. It's like, for me, life is to be cherished. It's so rare. Like, we don't know what happens after you're not here anymore. We didn't know what happens before you die. Like, it's like, it's so much to be cherished about this very rare life that we're experiencing for such a short time. It's like, I find meaning all the time in life. It is on a day-to-day basis. I'm experiencing new ways to just be appreciative about being. It's just completely absurd to say that you don't have meaning if you aren't convinced that the Christian God exists. It's like, in my point of view, it's like in Christianity, this life is but a blip, and like the real thing is like after you die and you go live in heaven with Jesus. To me, in my worldview, where I haven't been convinced that there's a God that exists, and there's only stories of gods in our imagination and what humans created, this life is the most cherished thing that, there's nothing more cherished than the life that I am living. And I have direct proof of that happening. Here I am. I feel to be living. I feel to be thinking. I am in this world. I'm in this reality. This is happening. And all around you can see that people do have an expiration date. And so until I get there, I am going to appreciate and experience this life that I'm living. It is phenomenal to be here. It's crazy.
Choices are meaningless.
That's depressing.
Oh, that's
So
depressing.
if there's no God, what happens when you die?
Well, nothing. You simply
Yeah.
cease to exist.
What happened before you
Right.
were born?
So one person lives a kind, generous, thoughtful life.
Okay.
Another lives a horrible, violent, selfish life.
This is so
It
funny.
doesn't matter. In both cases, the outcome is the same.
My goodness.
Nothingness.
Think about how silly this is. She just was comparing someone who, she had a picture of a girl that looked sweet, and it was like someone who's lived a wonderful, sweet life, and then next to it was like a murderer and like a angry man face, and it's like, you know, it's comparing these two. And this is what's so funny as well about Christianity. It's like they think that there should be this ultimate justice after people are dead for some reason. And it's like she puts this image of this sweet girl and says, this sweet girl has lived this wonderful, sweet, giving, caring life, is going to get the same, it's going to end up the same as this murderer. And it's like, this is a false dichotomy. Everything that happens in this life that we all live, in this reality that we all agree on, has consequences in this reality that we all agree on. You know, I don't even need to keep going over about it again. The girl that lived this sweet, caring life could experience life day to day great, or she could experience it day to day not so great. The murderer could experience day to day life great, or not so great. Now, the girl, considering that she is, you know, going with well-being of other people and herself, and kind of like going along with what we all say is like, you know, the best method of being in this life in the best way, you know, it kind of makes sense that while she's living, she is going to live a nicer life, right, than, say, the murderer, who kind of goes against all that we humans have decided is quote-unquote good. And so that murderer is probably not going to live a very good life in this reality that we live. And the justice is right there. The justice is happening in the moment right there. And so, you know, after we die, it's going to be the same thing as before we were born. Nothing is going to happen. Hola, I'm just recording a video. Give me un minuto. Yeah, obrigado. Sí. And so, I lost my train of thought. But it all is happening in this reality that we're living right now. And so, you know, what happens after we die, it doesn't matter. All the repercussions and consequences and justice happen now, right? And I mean, one other way of looking this in a different way, like on this video, the girl could have been like, you know, the sweet, nice girl, right? The sweet, nice girl that lives her life according to, you know, God and being sweet and human flourishing. That girl could very easily get cancer and die at 20 years old, right? In this life, okay? And the murderer could easily live a long life and never get caught and be have a wonderful life and still be a murderer. That can also happen. All of the consequences happen in this reality. What happens after we die is, in my opinion, most likely the exact same as that what happened before we were born. And the answer is, to you, it is a big fat zero. It is a big fat nothing. There was always people being born before you. There will be people born after you. In 100 years, there will be more people born. There will be more people dying. People live and die all the time. You are not special in that sense. The only sense that you are special in is in yourself, in this moment, that you're alive right now, and good luck and go forth. Like, that is it. You can try to be good or bad or indifferent, and there will all be kind of reactions in this reality based on how you are and how you act in this reality that we all live. That's it. God, so crazy. Let's see what she keeps saying.
Is the same. Nothingness.
Nothingness.
So how can their life choices have any objective meaning?
Well, it's certainly meaningful if I discover a cure for cancer or save a child's life.
I agree
Okay.
completely. But atheism can't explain why. Scientists predict that eventually the whole universe and mankind with it will die out. So everything.
Think about what she just said. She gave examples of like, well, if I live a good life and I cure cancer, that's good. And then she says, but atheism can't explain why. This woman does not know what atheism is, first of all. She might know, but she's not saying it in this scripted video. Again, atheism doesn't have anything to do with like whether or not curing cancer is good or bad, or what happens to you if you do cure cancer, whether it be good or bad. It's just that I haven't been convinced that there is a God, and most likely I've been convinced otherwise. So it's like when she says that atheism can explain why it would be good to cure cancer, that is just a stupid thing to say, because atheism doesn't have anything to say about whether that is good. That's not what atheism is. Atheism is just that I haven't been convinced that there is a God. Okay? So, but you know what has a lot to say about whether curing cancer is good? Humans do. Humans have a lot to say about that. And guess what? Atheists are humans. And so a atheistic human like myself would say that curing cancer is good for obvious reasons. It makes humans more fit to keep surviving on this planet as we continue. It's like, someone, if we don't cure cancer, okay, we're not as fit as we could be, and we're going to keep dying off from cancer. And if someone does find a cure for cancer, it's good, because we are now more fit for our environment to keep surviving better and longer. Simple.
Comes to nothing.
Everything comes
That's
to
why atheist
nothing.
Bertrand Russell says
Nonsense.
we must build our lives on the firm foundation of despair.
No
What?
thanks. I'd rather live a happy life.
Who lives on the firm dispensation of...
Every atheist has to choose between being happy or being consistent. A firm
Wait, what does he say? He says,
foundation of
we
despair.
must build our lives.
That's why atheist Bertrand Russell says
We must build our
we
lives
must
on the
build our
firm
lives on
foundation
the
of
firm
despair.
foundation of despair.
No thanks. I'd rather live a happy
Oh, I would rather live a
You're
happy
not alone.
life.
Every atheist has to choose between being happy or being consistent.
What?
You can tell the whole world you're an atheist, but you can't really live like one.
Why?
Okay, so you're a Christian. If your God did exist, how would that change anything?
If Christianity
Wait a
is
minute.
true, then each one of us is here for a reason.
Wait a minute. I'm just so confused. What if
You're not alone.
every atheist has to
have
choose
between
happy
being happy or being consistent.
or being consistent?
You can tell the whole world you're an atheist, but you can't really
What?
live like one.
Why? Wait a minute. Hold on. I can tell the world that I'm an atheist, but I can't really live like one. Why does that make any sense whatsoever? So, as an atheist, is that I'm not convinced that there's a God, and I've been convinced that there's many reasons to think that there is no God. Why is that inconsistent? Like, why can I not live in this world and be happy and think that at the same time? I mean, it seems the most reasonable thing to think, the most probable thing to think. I mean, as a Christian, you think that the other 4,000 religions are made up by humans, for humans, and so it's not crazy that Christianity could also be one of those made up stories about God by humans, for humans. I mean, am I missing something here? Like, so Christians think that all the other stories are not true, but they somehow think that their story is, and they have their reasons. Well, ours is the only reason for this. Ours is the only thing for this. And I don't even care about that. I'm saying that all of these stories are man-made. I'm saying I don't need to hear your specific reason why yours is better than the other ones. I'm saying that I think, and it seems most reasonable, and we know for a fact that humans do this, make up stories, be imaginative, come up with ideas of, superhuman powers and creations of everything and this, that, and the other. We know that this happens, so it seems quite reasonable to conclude that not just one, not just some, but all of these are stories that come from humans for humans. And I can live my life wonderfully. I can have good, I can have bad, I can have, I can have reason, I can have meaning, I can have everything that we have as humans, and we can keep discovering more. And guess what? The wonderful thing is like the things that we don't know, like let's say like how the universe can, like where did it even come from? Why is there even a universe here? Things like that we can confidently and humbly and emphatically and enjoyably say, I don't know. We don't know, and it's okay that you don't know. It's fine that you don't. You as a human, we as humans don't need to know everything to need or know some things. Like, we don't need to know where the universe or how the universe came into existence, but it's nice to know, like which side of the road to drive on. Like that's something nice to know. Or how to build an airplane that we can fly overseas and go to different places with ease. Like these are nice things to know. And man, we are unbelievable at this. Like we've come up with some crazy things. But we don't know how to go the speed of light. We know how fast light can go, but we don't know how to go that fast. And we don't know that there is any kind of mass that can go that fast, etc., etc., etc. It's like, this is crazy. Crazy.
Don't really live like one.
Oh, poor sweetheart.
Okay, so you're a Christian. If your God did exist, how would that change anything?
If Christianity is true, then each one of us is here for a reason. And life does not end at the grave. And God, He's the absolute standard of goodness. He knows you, He loves you, and He...
These last things that she said are, you can just say, she could just be saying anything. She could just be saying, she could be a crazy person, and this could be a crazy person video saying that, like, anything is true. It could be like Harry Potter is real, and Harry Potter world, the magical dragons, they are the ultimate reality, and they are the ultimate givers of good and bad, and we know this because the magical dragons love you, and the ultimate dragons loves you and knows you, and they're intentional, and you can just make up anything that you want in these last 10 seconds. Like, what she's saying is completely and utterly arbitrary. If Christianity is true, then each one of us is here for a reason, okay? And then she goes, life does not end at the grave. It's like, you can just say anything. Life does not end at the grave. Okay, here. After you die, you become a version of yourself that becomes a spirit, and then you can go fly to different planets, and people tend to go live on this planet that's like 10,000 light years away, and we don't know this now, and you can't do this now, but when you die, everything opens up, and you can go live on any planet that you want, and you can kind of, do anything you want. Like, you can just say anything. You can just say anything. And what she's doing right now is like since the Christian God exists, because that's the conclusion that we started with, there is meaning for life because He loves you. This God loves you. He knows you. He is interested in you. Life does not end the grave, so you don't have to worry. You're not going to die after you die. You're going to stay good and whole, and you're going to go to heaven.
Not end
There's
at
no
grave.
reality here.
And God, He's the absolute standard of goodness.
What?
He knows you, He loves you, and He intentionally created you. So your life
We've already
ultimately does
established.
have objective.
We've already established that, like, if you start with this God, you can say that that God is the ultimate moral giver. But we've already established that you don't need God to come up with why things are good and bad. You don't need God to come up with reasons for a human why things have meaning, value, and purpose. You know, I just don't need to cover this anymore. It's just so clear. Maybe not how I'm saying it, but it's clear to me.
Meaning, value, and purpose. That means you can live a life that's both happy and consistent.
While that doesn't prove Christianity's true.
Agreed. I'm simply pointing out that for Christians, living a life that is both happy and consistent is possible.
I don't understand.
For atheists, it's not.
What? I mean, that just, they're ending right now. What are you going to go choose? It says that for Christians, living a life that is both happy and consistent is possible. And she goes and it says, for atheists, it is not. I'm going to end it here. That is just a lie. That is just a fantasy that this Christian is living in. Living a life that is both happy and consistent is possible. Also for a Christian, living a life that is not happy and not consistent is also possible. What she's saying is not correspond to the reality that we live. Like, what she's saying is just a blanket statement that can mean many things, and it doesn't actually mean what is in reality. And when she says that, atheists cannot live a life that is both happy and consistent, I've already explained this. For first of all, for a Christian to live a life that is consistent, I would argue that they aren't, because consistent would have to go more with the reality that we live, which is the very fact of the matter is that there are thousands of other instances across the world of humans creating stories about gods. The Christian believes that their version of the story is true, but that isn't consistent what the other thousands of religions are saying. So there isn't consistency there. Now, in my worldview, I will say that we know for 100% fact that humans create stories, and we know 100% fact that humans create stories about God. It seems that all these stories, Christian and all the thousands of others, are all created by people, for people. Very consistent. And I can be very happy knowing that, that is true. It seems true. It's the most probable that it's true. It is the most consistent about the way that the world works and about how people are that could be true. It just is the most true, consistent thought to be had about this specific topic. So for me, I'm being very consistent, and at the same time, it is wonderful because now, in a way, it's like it even goes to show more specifically how wonderful this life is, how appreciative this is. You know, this is the most cherished moments that will ever be for any one particular person. Right now, it's here. We did it. You're here. Let's see. What is my...
Consistent is possible. For atheists, it's not.
Yes.
So what are you going to choose?
Atheism. What does she say there? She says, I have come that they may live...
Choose.
Truth. I'm going to choose truth. The truth that is the most consistent, that corresponds to the reality that we live. That's what I'm going to go with. I mean, I am open to possibilities of life, but at the moment, and for all intents and purposes, it seems hands down the most convincing is what I've been saying, and I'm going to go with that. So I think my camera's about to die. It's been an hour. You know, that's it. I guess I'm done. So this video is really, really, really bad. It's focused on Christians, obviously. Like, that's who it's for, and people that don't think or do any research or see any. There's so many inconsistencies with what she says and how she puts her thoughts and ideas forward. It's clearly scripted. I've heard William Ling talk a ton and have debates, and this is what he's like. He starts with God, and he tries to do acrobats to get it to work for him. And when you're doing a video like this, you can just say whatever it is, and then the people who believe it can just believe it. But if you take this and you show it to someone like me, or someone who can actually analyze it and say what is completely wrong about it and inconsistent, it has so many problems. Anyway, I'll leave you there. Peace.